This show is a production of the Best in Tabletop Network. Be your best in every aspect of your game. Find us wherever you find your podcasts, or check us out on YouTube for more Bat Reps podcasts and shows. If you like what we're doing, you can join our Discord through the Best in Tabletop Patreon group or our YouTube members only area where you'll get access to our entire library of content. Thank you for listening.
Welcome to 40k Fight Club, episode 19. Goodbye, Nachmund. I really wanted to go into Good Morning Vietnam there, but I don't know if I could do that without getting copy striked. So, hello everybody, I am Ennis. I'm joined as always by Nathan and Anthony. This is episode 19 of 40k Fight Club, your one-stop shop for 40k stats and terrible discussion, mostly the second bit. There events happened this week, we don't care, is broadly the strokes of it. We'll cover them, but you don't care either. It's Nachmund. We're on to Nephilim now. So we're going to be doing a bit of a roundup, a bit of a wrap up for all of the last since February, 4.5 months, 5 months. Touching on that, going through that. But let's start with the easy bit. I'm sorry that there wasn't an episode last week, guys. We were otherwise disposed. Nathan unfortunately had a bit of a sickness, and Anthony was stuck at Cherry Hammer, and I just didn't want to do it by myself because who does? It doesn't sound fun. So we took a week off last week. We are not going to be going back and covering the events this weekend, which is brilliant because I won a super major last week. Just as you do.
Nailed it.
We got to bring that up properly. Yeah. We have managed to continue our pattern of every time there is a UK PC event, we miss the next week. So don't expect there to be one the weekend after Leeds or anything other than that. There is no chance of shows on those situations. It just doesn't happen. The pattern has been established.
Okay, so we're talking about what happened to us in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, how's your last 2 weeks of 40 giving, guys? Anyway, there you go. My microphone is inappropriate.
You did
I'll
it.
start because I've got like the least interesting recap to do. So I went to the Best in Tabletop Open, and then I got COVID, and then I wasn't playing any more 40k for the rest of the time because I didn't test negative until like the weekend that Charity Hammer was ending. So there was that, and then I flew home. Best in Tabletop Open was fun. I went 3-2, which wasn't quite what I wanted, but I got to meet lots of cool listeners and play lots of good people and shake lots of hands with people, which is probably how I got sick. But such is life. Anthony can tell us a little bit more about both the Open and doing well at it, and then also tell us a little bit about Charity Hammer while he's here.
Yeah. So I had a great time at both Charity Hammer and the Open. Charity Hammer, as ever, is an exhausting juggernaut of not sleeping. My highlight was the absolutely nonsense game I played with Matt Evans on stream. We both picked all of our faction secondaries, and at the end of the game, there was 11 objective markers on the field. So that was a lot of fun. We raised a whole bunch of money for kids' charity. All in all, it was lots of fun. Innes looks confused. So if you play a 6 objective mission, and then you take your places as Harlequins, that adds 3 more. And then the Spore Node one for Tyranids asks you to put an objective marker down every time you complete it.
The bigger question is, how did he plant 4 Spore Nodes?
He planted 3. Yeah, we ended with 12.
That's still impressive.
Yeah, he put a unit of gaunts out of strategic reserve, like in a spot where he could do it, and then just did it 3 times because I didn't care and it was hilarious. I should note that we were both 2-0 in our given pot at this point, and our game meant nothing as far as advancing goes, other than bragging rights. So we just played a nonsense game. Whee!
Fair enough.
I played at the Open.
All your normal games, which are definitely not nonsense.
Yeah, no, my normal games are high stakes, something. Nathan watched me play all weekend. He can confirm that I don't play particularly serious games unless I really have to.
It's true. Anthony will basically talk nonstop during his games, which is kind of funny to watch.
Yeah.
Even when exhausted. He'll just keep talking the whole time. I think it's actually a tactic he uses to disorient his opponents.
It's that or a tick. So
Either a little bit of both. 6 of one, half dozen the other. Either way, I talk the whole time. So the tabletop open was fun. I played Blood Angels for that. I got beat up by Lucas on stream. That was a grand old time. Turns out Blood Angels don't like transports. Orcs angrily coming out of transports gets you dead. Yeah, shocking.
Eating all those, or Grots eating all the breaking ankles as they get out of transports. That's always a sad
those Grots
moment.
that totally shouldn't have been in those transports. Lucas. I'm gonna give him shit about that for forever. So yeah, it was a good time overall. The week between was fun. Washington in general is really pretty. Yeah, how was your 2 weeks, Ennis?
yeah, it's been all right. I played a bunch of Legion. That was really good. Got to try the new Boba Fett rules.
How was that?
He's real fast and real hitty. It's been good fun.
Anthony bought me my first Legion model. I've got operative Darth Vader hanging around here somewhere. He used his third place finishings from the open to buy me a Darth Vader miniature.
So we're playing Legion of Vegas. It's very important.
Definitely. I have the one model, so we can.
Yep, that sounds about even. Yep. Yeah. So my mortar. So what I am tracking though is how many Force users my mortar can kill, and so far he's killed Dooku and Kenobi. So mortar is just like a random little thing you add on to like a trip spot. Just keeps killing. Just killed 2 Force users now, and I'm gonna keep track.
I love it.
What is your army? Like, what are you playing?
I'm playing Empire. So I've been playing, I've tried a few different things. So I've been trying some Palpatine lists, some Boba lists. I tried out like a very heavy Alpha Strike list, which was really good fun. Chris didn't enjoy it much. I can't say he enjoys anything I do at the moment.
As a question in this, can you play like the droids versus Empire and like the Rebellion versus? So you can play any of the different factions.
Yeah, you can play all cross. You can play all cross. It's just like 40k, right? Even if it doesn't make
Okay.
sense, it's still fine.
You just ignore all the timelines and imagine a conflict.
You could have Vader punching Vader in the face. It's fine.
Oh, that's excellent. I love everything about this. Now I'm going to go buy some Legion stuff.
You should. Legion's really fun. I have genuinely been enjoying it a lot.
And it's
reinvigorating my hope. Okay. Droids are like hordes with like army-wide 6-up saves, but in a game where you auto-pass saves for being in cover, it's really fun to just so cover, basically the way it works is if you're in light cover, you auto-pass one of the saves that you get applied to you. If you have heavy cover, you auto-pass 2 of them. So if you get most units will kick out between 1 and 5 hits, depending on how good they are at shooting. So if you just auto-pass saves with your 6-point droids, it's really, really good because you just keep popping them on the board. And you get perfect order control, so you can always sequence all your stuff in whatever way you want. You're not subject to the variants. You get a lot of horde stuff. You've also got the most forces of the most jet lightsaber guys of any faction. You got 3. Republic is all about order sharing, so you could basically generate bunches of dodge tokens so that your stuff becomes really hard to kill the later the turn it goes. And they have a lot of really cool synergies. Empire is all about making your opponent really, really sad because their stuff can't do things, and crit generation, which ignores cover and ignores dodges. So you basically just say your rules go away, you don't get to do that. And then they have Darth Vader and Palpatine, who are both terrifying. They also have one of the best officer in the game with pre-deploying and then scout moving, just generating a million crits, which is really fun. And I played that. And then you have Palpatine, who can travel 26 inches and fire lightning at 5 different units, table your opponent on turn 3, which is really funny. And then Rebels, I've not had the chance to play against because nobody's playing it, but from what I understand, they're super fragile, super high damage output, and they have Luke, who is insanely cool and can fight twice.
That seems good. I'm definitely sounding Empire. You don't get to do things. Also, crits.
all of us are Empire. Yeah, well done. Definitely typecasting ourselves. It's the faction I play. You also get dinosaurs that can, in one of Vader's cool turns, can move 30 inches and charge, and you play on a board that's only 3 foot wide.
Dinosaurs.
So, they're called Duvak Riders. They're basically little dinosaurs from if you remember New Hope.
Oh yeah,
the guys that are on.
I got you.
You can run 3 of those. They're 80 points, which is 40k times about 200 points because you play 8 points.
There's also the Merc factions, right? Because I saw
there's
Boba
also
Fett
a
has
Merc
a
faction
faction,
now, which is all about instead of giving your stuff orders, you just get free tokens, and they're really quite good apparently. And you can run Darth Maul with 2 lightsabers.
Oh, I saw that Darth Maul and a bunch of Mandalorians running together.
So anyway,
that was good.
Legion. Really excited about. I also won a super major.
With 40k,
that was
40k super major.
I don't know. That was okay, I guess. I showed up. I played no practice games on my list, and I put a Harpy in a pod in the semi-final. My opponent bricked it. It was so much fun. I played Kyle Grundy in the semi-finals with a long strike and a hammerhead, and I went, okay, I'm going to strategic reserve that Harpy and 4 Paravors, and I'm going to put the other one in the pod. And I'm going to hide everything.
You put a Harpy in a pod?
I put a Harpy
Yes!
in a pod and the other one in Strat Reserve.
I love
And
it.
then they both
Every
came
sing-
in and aced a Hammerhead and a little bit of and most of Longstrike. And then I charged Longstrike with a Parasite.
Man, this is what I love to hear is fucking or Innis putting harpies in pods. Because the pod
It's
is like
so
my
much fun.
the pod is one of my favorite things that I've played with in a Tyranid army. And it was Innis who was like, Nathan, you should play with pods. They're fun. And
I
there's
played
nothing more satisfying than dropping a pod full of stuff on your opponent and being like, so all that stuff is dead.
Yeah. Sorry about that. Not really though.
Never sorry about it.
I had the opportunity to play Josh Roberts in round 4 and Manny Chima in the semifinals, both Team England players, and I beat both of them, which felt really good as a Scotsman. That was got me right good in there. Really good fun final games with Manny. We both just beat the living snot out of each other, and it turned out that we both were down to like 6 or 7 activations. Unfortunately, 2 of mine were Hive Tyrants, and one of the Hive Tyrants killed 3 of his in a turn, and that felt really good. It's like, I'm going to smite that off, charge that one, and the Venom Cannon kills a Farseer. And that was just really
I
nice.
like it.
So
Like
that was really
everything
good.
about
I
it.
also played an RTT last weekend with the new Nephilim missions. Or I say last weekend, like 2 days ago. So I tried out a Leviathan double Harpy build. I tried out Old One Eye, who was not good. Cannot advocate using Old One Eye. My highlight for him was he charged the Silent King, got made the fight last, took 10 damage, took like 5 saves, failed all of them, took 10 damage, and failed 9 out of 10 field fates and died immediately the first combat. This was on turn 5.
I think
The first time
Anthony
he made
watched
combat
me.
on turn 5. I
I
was
think
so
Anthony
upset.
came over to watch one of my games and literally saw me do something like that. And every time he came over, something terrible happened on the table.
Yeah.
Every single time he
I
came
was
over to
like,
see
all right.
the table.
So I got a bunch of 5-up saves and a bunch of 6-up saves and a -1 damage on 5-up field of pain. I should be all right here. Like even through no, straight dead. He still had attacks to roll. It was horrible.
Do you want to talk about the incident now, Nathan, or do you want to talk about that later?
I'll finish talking about my RTT, please.
Okay.
New Necrons were pretty cool. I really enjoyed playing against. They had really cool rerolls. The Silent King getting rerolls in his main area was really great because it meant he got to roll a lot more ones to wound, which he did all the time.
Sure does.
2 turns in a row, he rolled double miss into double hit, and then into double ones to wound. I was just like, yeah, okay, thank you.
Thanks, bro.
Round 2, I got to play against Chris and his White Scars. He played a White Scars horde, and Old One Eye was real good in that matchup. Charging 2 squads of Vanguard veterans and killing both is a really nice feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, all those White Scars players are not running shields on your guys. Really nice prey. You saved those 20 points, brother. I'll take your unit. And then the last round, I got to play against New Death Guard, who unfortunately do not have good answers for harpies when you fly over and shoot them before they get. I also put my harpy in the pod that game though, because I didn't want. We had 2 Plague Rush Callers, 2 Volcons, and a Predator with last cannons, and I was just like, I don't want to deal with any of that.
That's a lot.
The
It's a lot of
last
shit.
one.
It's actually not that bad. It got a points drop. It's like 130.
It's
NS.
still kind of bad.
I wouldn't say
but
it
it's
was
not
good, but it was, it wasn't the worst thing you could have done.
Okay. What is?
Well,
Yeah.
the worst is what I could. What
Well,
I
don't know.
did.
Let me just
Anthony.
consult the R4 tier list, and I'll tell you exactly what's worth the Death Guard.
Oh,
Not much.
no.
Everyone's
So-
an A.
We can talk about my decision making as the worst thing that you can do.
Well, you can
So
do that
played,
while I look up what's objectively worse than.
So
Death
I went
Guard.
3-2 at the event, and I got to play lots of good people. And also we got to see how like absolutely bananas pre-nerf Tyranids were yet again, as I lost 1 model to a Salamanders player. And tabled him effectively. Well, I lost more than 1 model, but I didn't lose any squads. I didn't lose a single squad.
Well,
of models
that's the
tabled
important.
poor
Oh,
Salamanders
okay.
player.
So I have the objective math: Gene Stealer cults, guard, demons, and some Space Marine sub factions that people care about as much as they care about Iand. And
Oh, perfect.
True.
And then for my decision making, I would have won my last game at the event if I had not charged Death Leaper into combat with 2 other things into a Hive Tyrant. I charged Death Leaper, the Reaper Hive Tyrant, and a 3-man of Tyrant Guard into a walking Hive Tyrant that had taken 3 wounds. And then none of that managed to kill the walking Hive Tyrant, who turned around and yeeted Death Leaper into the sun. And then I lost that objective, lost Stranglehold, gave my opponent a 12 on primary, and also lost 1 pip on the tertiary objective for the action that I started, and then lost the game by 1 point.
High level.
So
And that
if
was
I
only
had
the second worst thing
just
he did.
if I had just left the Death Leaper on the point and not had him do anything, I would have won the game with the point swing from that by itself. Um, that well, and the other thing that I did that I shouldn't have done is I CP re-rolled the 111 perils on some zoanthropes, and I instead of using that CP to turbo up the Hive Tyrant Reaper going into that Hive Tyrant, which probably would have killed it, was a different mistake.
He had 3 outs.
I had a third out where I charged as Neurothrope and a Carnifex. And the Neurothrope was what was doing Warp Ritual. And instead of just putting all my attacks into the Neurothrope with the Reaper and like killing it in like 90% of the time, I split my attacks and killed neither thing. And so those were the 3 mistakes. The one that was the biggest mistake was that I should have just left Death Leaper on a point. The other 2, I was just not thinking about it as much as I should have.
Yeah, the
But
only other thing I can bully you about is that you took to the last in a mirror, which was very ballsy.
yes, that was
Yeah.
actually
No
my
prisoners exists for the Tyranid mirror. Like
yeah.
you get that, right?
I should have just taken no prisoners, but I like had never played the Tyranid mirror before, so I had no idea what I was doing.
Did you
And
consider
so
like asking someone?
there was nobody there to ask except my opponent.
You
Well, I
can
could have asked
DM
you.
people.
You were off murdering somebody.
I was next to you.
Well, during the secondary. Oh, you were. That's right. This game I played next to Anthony.
Do you not discuss like your pairing during the break?
No, I didn't actually. I should have talked
So
to.
this is one thing we should actually talk about.
So the
this, because
funnier
this kind
thing
of matters.
about I want to tell you one more thing though is I
Okay.
could definitely
I'm
have
gonna go
made
back.
the
I'm gonna
match
file that way, and we're gonna go back to that.
against Trimble, who won the event and played our game really well, but also played much better once my Reaper Hive Tyrant just failed to kill a Maliceptor by 3 damage and couldn't overrun back to combat. So that was the point where the game went from my secondary selection is going to kick me real hard in the chest to, oh no, my Reaper Tyrant is now going to die. And then I progressively lost that game basically because of that trade. Or lack thereof, essentially.
I watched David Gaylord at Goodhammer Open fail the Resonance Barb +1 to cast Neurothrope Onslaught on his Hive Tyrant in the middle of his opponent's army on turn 1.
So that
It's
happened
like
to me
1 in 45,000 or something stupid like that.
that happened to me in
so
the
stressful. Still
Sisters
in the
of
game,
Battle
but
match. I played a Sisters of Battle match and he tried the D6 deny. And at this point, he had already denied 2 powers rolling 6s on denies. He failed
why
the
on
deny.
earth were you in deny range?
Don't ask. I was like at the very
You
I was at
understand
the
genetic growth.
I was at the very edge of deny range, like at the very edge of it. And he
You
measured
know you
it,
can
and I was like
pre-measure in 40K,
just
right?
within 24 inches. Yes, Ennis, I'm aware.
Are you sure?
Yes. This is what happens when you only get like a few practice games in with an army before going to an event and you're really rusty with what you're doing, is you make lots of mistakes.
You get bullied by us afterwards.
And then
A lot, yeah.
I knew Anthony was going to bring it up anyway, so I wanted to just take responsibility for my
pain
decisions.
away. Yeah.
Yes. So he denied overrun, so he just sat there. I still won that game, mind you, but it definitely
Queen
was a lot
Arcturans.
worse.
Yeah, he did his best
because
to
of it.
lose.
I did.
Queen
My very
Arcturans were like,
best.
no, Nathan, no, you cannot.
I did my best to lose every single game that weekend, basically, is what happened.
You lose 2 mirrors.
And I lost 2 mirrors.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk
there you
about
go.
the pre-game discussion thing. How many in-person events have you actually played?
Non-RTTs, 2, including the Open. So I played at 2 GT or larger events in person.
How many of those events have you traveled to with a friend or teammate?
All of them.
Who's competent?
I mean, all of them have competent
0 of
people
them.
at them. 0 of them because I don't count Anthony. No, I'm just kidding. I've never really talked about my matchups between the 2 points with other people, to be honest, except for when they gave us the second day first round pairings the night before.
Anthony,
we
how
were all
often
sitting in
do
a
you do that?
hotel.
Every single round.
Yeah, I grab like all my teammates and we all sit and we all talk about everyone's matchups every round.
This is good to know though, because I like never do that at
You
events.
should
Because
find some people to do that with if you don't. If you don't already do that, it's the best part of
I've,
going to events with other people is that you get to do that. The pair
So at
goes
the-
up, you take 10 minutes, go and all talk to each other. Like teammates will come up and grab me and be like, "Yo, I'm playing Tyranids. Is there anything I'm missing here?" That find people you trust to do that with. It will level up your game more than you think it will because they will tell you, they will vibe check you and be like, "Stop
That's-
doing the dumb thing you're doing. Please don't pick that secondary. Don't do the auto defaults because this is what you should do in this matchup." And if you don't have that experience and they do, use it. That's what teammates are for.
That's good to know, because now I've got Anthony's in my phone as Violence, just so everybody knows. His entire name in my phone book is just Violence.
What emoji did you put on with his name?
There's
or are
no
you too old
emoji.
to do
It's
that?
just
Okay.
Violence.
You're
I'm
simple.
too old to put emojis in my phone. I was
I
almost
thought
too
so too,
old
but I
to
saw
not
my
put.
dad's car screen and he had emojis on like two people's names. I'm like, what's
Oh,
wrong with you?
what? I almost just put Anthony and then put Violence in parentheses because my phone was going to be so organized like a Rolodex, I guess. A Rolodex is where people who were old kept phone numbers and you could go through it like a
Is
little
that like the
thing full of
PDA in
cards.
Pokemon Coliseum?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay,
except a
right,
physical one made up of
right,
cards,
okay.
like library cards. Like when you would look up books for a
Like my
library
Pokemon
on
card collection?
cards. Kind of.
So it
Yeah.
alphabetizes like my Pokemon cards. So yeah.
Yes.
And it-
So now I just need to ask Innes for his phone number so I can text him between events. And I'm
oh
not
yeah,
gonna
okay.
skip
So
that.
I'll just read
I'm
out
gonna-
on air,
I'm
will
gonna
I?
send
I'm
you
sure
a
that
text.
won't go wrong.
No, I'll ask you afterwards, Innes. Get over it. And you're gonna be in there as boss baby. So congratulations.
That's all my t-shirts, man. That joke has no power over me anymore. I paid
Or
money
just-
to have that on shirts.
Or just
Like-
Scotland's whole team. Exclamation point.
Because for anyone who doesn't know, my status on Discord has been for like a couple of years. I am the Scotland,
Yeah.
which
It
I
is,
refuse to
that's
change.
just what it's going to be. Is the Scotland, and then in parentheses the whole team.
All of them.
Yeah.
We know what fucking Rolodex is. Wait. No, I genuinely like if you had said Rolodex to me, the first thing that would have come to my mind is off-brand watch. So
Yeah, the whole chat is like, we know what a Rolodex is, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure that both my co-hosts are too young to know
I
what
know
a
what a
Rolodex is.
Rolodex is.
I'm a little
have-
impressed at that.
I'm pretty sure I've watched
but
some
I
old
knew
TV
Innes
shows.
did not. Innes, have you ever used the physical card catalog in a library before? Like with the old Dewey Decimal stuff? No?
I've used the Dewey Decimal System. Like, I
I
understand
mean,
the
you
concept.
you pretty much have to use that
Yeah.
still. But you've
Have
never
I ever
used a
used, like-
non-computerized library catalog?
Probably when I was in like primary school.
Okay.
But I
So
don't
you
really.
used to have to like pull out things, and they were organized like by topics, and then you'd have to go through them, and they'd have little cards with the locations
No,
of
I don't
books
think
on
the
them.
school libraries I used to use were organized enough for that, but they also didn't have a digital system. It was kind of more like good luck.
That also sounds like a school library. I won't lie.
Yeah, you know, where you got your Scholastic Book Fair and you've got you go in and you get your little packets of pencils and all
They
that
have
good stuff.
they have Scholastic book fairs in the UK.
I think they're like different
like-
names, but I don't remember what they were called in the UK, but I do remember the American version because people talk about it online enough.
Yes.
Like
So-
the best the best day ever when you get to go to the Scholastic book fair in like K through 6, like
we used to have a
primary
little
school, the
shop in
best.
our library that just exclusively sold that stuff.
Dude, if you went
Anyway,
there
should
with,
we
like, 20
at some
bucks,
point talk
you were
about
the
do you want
school's
to talk
gangster.
about 40K?
No, because it's not
me
important. We're
neither.
basically talking about things equally as important as the end state of the meta, except Anthony looks like he really has something to say.
That's
I
fair.
forgot. I was just saying that going into that like Scholastic Book Fair with like $10, you were like the biggest gangster.
And that'll buy you now what, like one warrior?
Like 1/3 of a squad. Not
Yeah.
even a fifth of
Not
a
even.
box.
It's a fifth. Yeah.
A fifth of a box.
It was great when I won £20 prize money and we were actually here. I was like, what can I buy?
So this reminded me recently of like what StarCraft prize pools used to look at like for like StarCraft 1 LAN party tournaments. And they were like, yeah, $100, $50, 20 Bitcoin for like places 4 through 10 essentially was all like 20 Bitcoin when Bitcoin was worth like a quarter.
When it was a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's still a joke, just for different reasons. But
Yes. For totally
That's
different.
a very expensive joke.
yeah,
Yes.
so are you. But
Oh, wow. Damn. And it's
I'll have you know I'm not expensive.
It's true. Well, you've got expensive taste. I've seen you at restaurants.
That's not true.
Dude, you put away like $150 worth of food by yourself, basically.
That was what's the right phrasing? That was what's the
Airport food. You had no choice.
chemically enhanced. Well,
Oh, fair. Okay, so we can transition into the
Well,
stats.
no, if we're talking
kinda
tournament
like,
food, I've got to talk about. We went to an all-you-can-eat Brazilian steakhouse in Newcastle, and
oh yeah,
my
how was
God,
that?
it
How was that?
phenomenal. We just they would just come out and they're like, "Would you like some sirloin?" Yes, I would. Would you like some rump steak? Would you like some pork belly? Would you like some chicken hearts? No, you can go away and come back with the next guy. And we just
Did
sat
they
there
give
for
you
like
the
an
little-
hour and a half with 6 of the little flippy cards. Yeah, it was great. It was like £45 for that and a couple drinks. And they brought us food until we couldn't eat anymore, and it was amazing.
Yeah,
So
you
should
basically
do
roll.
all you eat Brazilian steakhouse is a good idea. I approve of the concept.
We can do that in Vegas.
Yeah, but I feel like in Vegas it's going to cost a lot more than £45.
I mean, probably
transit-
similar to it.
$8.
post conversion, you'll be fine.
It'll be about the same.
Yeah, it's fine. It's all funny money. Anyway.
We'll all be at LVO anyways. We might as well have fun.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
Oh, Adam Camilleri's in the chat. Hi, Adam.
I'm so sorry, Adam.
got-
I know we were calling this 40K Fight Club. Don't expect the 40K in
It's
the
really-
Fight Club.
There'll be some 40K.
There will be,
Yeah,
but it's under duress.
I'm
Yeah.
gonna do the post-mortem on the whole meta up until Nephilim in just a minute, because Nephilim straight up took the meta out back and old yellered it. So
Well, do you want to do that then? I'm going to go grab a drink while you start because I feel like this stats are going to make me sad. So
yeah, I mean, you might as well find a cup to cry into, because the stats are inevitably going to make you sad.
does it look like a lot of Harlequins and Custodes and Tau and Turin? It's an
Yes.
Eldar.
Oh, it's
Game's
time.
been real fun. I'll be back in 1 second.
All right, everybody. So buckle up. We're gonna do a post-mortem on the pre-Nephilim meta. So in case you weren't aware, we started tracking the stats in about February of this year. So that's around when we got, right before we got Tau and Custodes and Gene Stealer Cult, essentially. We got those in essentially the first meta that we started tracking, and we effectively have tracked 5 different metas, at like meta periods, essentially, and pre-Nephilim rules. We have the Tau, Custodes, and Gene Stealer Cult meta, which is really more the Tau Stodes meta. We then had the Eldari meta, which was Asuryani, Harlequins, and that was kind of it. Then we had Tyranids plus the quarter 2 data slate. So that's Armor of Contempt, Bodyguard changes, and then the first wave of kind of Custodes and Tau nerfs. And then we had the Tyranids FAQ meta, and then we have the Knights meta. So those are essentially the 5 metas that we have, not necessarily representative of the dominant faction of them, but kind of the 5 different factions that we tracked. And you can find all that on the Tableau if you want to at public.tableau.com. 40K Fight Club meta dashboard is what it is currently called. We may come up with a better name for it at some point than that. And you can find all of our sub-faction win rates, games played, and faction v faction win rate data on there. I'm not going to go through meta by meta and talk about the various leaders of each time point. I think a lot of people have heard us hammer about it a lot. So I'm going to try to keep the postmortem kind of somewhat brief, and then we're going to talk about some roundtable stuff and talk about Nephilim secondaries and some other things. So overall, since February 6th, which was the first weekend that we were tracking stats as a group, we have Harlequins in the first place for win rate at a 66% win rate. That's with 1,600 games tracked. Actually, really quick, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sum something so I can tell you how many games we've tracked as a group.
Congratulations on
Since this
Harlequins for
started.
winning the war on Harlequins.
We have tracked
We did it.
44,000 games.
We nerfed them into the
Of
ground,
40K.
guys.
So I will briefly talk about the stats after this, but we've tracked about 44,000 games of 40K in our stats stuff across 5 metas. So that's
quite a
kind of
lot.
exciting.
How many had GSC in them total?
Gene Stealer Cult had 1,057 games.
Not a lot, is it?
That's
It's actually a fair number. It's more than Forces of the Hive Mind.
It's not a real
Or-
faction.
or
That's a faction
Imperium.
people trick themselves into thinking is real.
Do you want me to talk about who had the most and least?
I
games
actually
played?
kind
'Cause I
of
can
do, yeah.
that.
Like
Sure.
top 5 and bottom
So
5.
the most games played was by Space Marines.
Shock.
who played over 7,000 games. And then Tau Empire is in second with 3,900. Tyranids are in third with 3,700. Custodies are in fourth with 3,600. And then Craft World Eldar are in fifth with 2,968. And then after that,
37.
we've got Orcs, Thousand Sons, Necrons, Grey Knights, and Death Guard, who are all kind of in the
That
upper.
was 1% of all of Tyranids games.
Yeah.
40.
Death Guard. Then we have Harlequins at 1,500, Sisters at 1,500, and then Imperial Knights and Drukhari at around 1,500 at 1,467 and 1,442. Then at 1,000, we have GSC, Chaos Knights, and Astra Militarum, who are right around 1,000 plus or minus 100. Then we have Chaos Space Marines at 988 games.
That'll change.
Chaos Super Faction at 850 games, which is mostly demons, really. Adeptus Mechanicus at 692 games. Eldari, that's Eldar Soup at 674 games.
All of them were that one weekend in Manchester.
And then the least played monofaction army is Chaos Demons at 508 games.
All of them were like Pestilence.
Imperium was 328 games. And then the lowest played faction is Forces of the Hive Mind at 162 games.
I'm probably a decent player of those as well. So anyway, what I want to talk about, if you played 4 games with Tyranids, you are single-handedly responsible for 1% of Tyranids win rate. Since I almost exclusively won, 1% of that win rate is mine, just by myself.
You can claim as much of it as you want. So now we'll go through
1%,
win rate.
actually.
Yeah.
So why don't you both guess what our top 5 performing factions are for the whole data set?
Harlequins,
Tyranids,
Eldar.
Custodes, Eldar.
Yes. Congratulations. You are very good at predicting this. Harlequins are at 66%. Tyranids are at 64.5. Custodes are at 59.7. Despite that absolute drubbing they received somehow. Man, that's weird.
It's almost like they're really good at smashing people in the 3 and 2 bracket.
There are.
Eldar is at 57.4 for Soup. Tau is at 57.4. Pure Craft World Eldar is at 55. And then Drukhari is after that at 52. I'm going to skip over Forces of the Hive Mind because I just don't care.
Same.
Sisters are at 50, the perfectly balanced faction around which all other factions should be balanced, in my opinion, until recently when they kind of made some points reductions that I think are questionable. We're going to see some consequences of it in the immediate pre-Nephilim emergence. That was a lot of very rapid ways of saying they might have maybe done something they shouldn't have done with Sisters.
There's a couple of changes in Nephilim that maybe not.
Yeah, we could play that. How long do you think it is going to be until Silent King loses core? But
soon. So
at every week he's got it.
Who do you think your worst performing faction is overall for the entire data set since February?
Guard or Mechanicus, right?
It's Guard. Astra Militarum are at 33.4%. They are the lowest faction by 6% because Chaos Space Marines are second to worst at 39%. And then Death Guard, and then Space Marines, and then Mechanicus are the top 5 worst factions. Necrons actually not in the top 5 worst. They are 6.
Necron's got a bunch of buffs. Where are all of Space Marines?
Oh man, all of Space Marines are at.
No, where are all the Space Marines buffs? I don't care where their stats are.
Oh, I mean,
just like Games Workshop.
If we look at their most recent data set since Armor of Contempt, I can't believe that I need to do this. Boy.
It wasn't enough, was it? It's hilarious.
It wasn't.
People are still predicting Death Guard are going to have like a 45% win rate after all the buffs. It's so funny.
The Space Marines for just June, which is post Armor of Contempt, are at 42.4% overall. They are the most played faction at 16%.
That probably makes an impact.
Yeah, which does they're only 4% more played than Tyranids are. So
that still means that 8%, like 8-9% of all total games are still won by Space Marines.
Yes. Yeah. So there was a moment in time not that long ago where Space Marines had actually dropped below Tau and Custodes because Custodes armies were so easy to collect, probably in part. And you saw Space Marines actually dip below that 12% threshold. And watched both Tau and Custodes briefly get played more than them at events. However, now they're fine. They seem to have gotten their legs back, but there's a lot of like discrepancy between what I think are the top. Yeah, for legs. They got their legs back or their jump packs back in the case of Blood Angels. So you've got Blood Angels on like the top end of Space Marines factions. That's like the red painted Ferrari or the like classic muscle roadster. And then at the bottom, you have like Imperial Fists, who are like a car whose engine has never been the same since that got totaled basically a week ago. And then
They're
there's a
both
lot of
cars.
room in the middle between those 2 points where you've got like Iron Hands,
everything is just
Raven
A tier.
Guard. No, yeah, everything is A tier, therefore nothing is. I definitely
A
don't have
tier
anything.
goes from Sisters of Battle to Demons. Everything is A tier.
Man, so I've got a thing. If you fit a third of something into a single tier, like A tier, which is like at the top end of something, that's not A tier anymore. And you need more tiers. You need to break down your data further because a third of the factions in the game cannot be in the second highest tier of the game. That's not how
Anthony.
tiers are supposed to work.
Get your company in order.
My company.
Are you part of it?
I don't run anything.
I don't care.
I do.
You could have been in the group chat messaging Jack and Richard.
It's-
for context on anybody. The Art Award put out their Nephilim predictions tier list, and a lot of stuff is in A tier. Maybe a little too much in A tier.
Too
Well, the
much
rest
stuff
of it's
is
in
in
B. So
Yeah, it's like A tier is sisters, B tier A and B, or S tier is sisters, A and B tier is everything else, and C tier is Space Marine sub factions that no one cares about, and Guard, Gene Stealer
Demons.
Cult, and Demons. And that's
Yeah.
it.
To be fair, like C is where you should put your average stuff. C is your average factions. That is the average point at which grades are put.
yeah, you
A
get
and
degrees
B
with them.
are supposed to be above average and very above average, and D is supposed to be below average, and F is supposed to be failing. And then this S thing is like if somebody has a 4 has that 5.0 mystery thing where they take honors classes and get extra GPA points. That's the honors students are the S tier. But for some reason, we've decided to be more like video game reviews for reviews of Codex Power,
where the minimum is 6.
where the minimum is 6, but really we don't drop anything below 7 or 8 because we don't want to hurt any video game company feelings or any readers' feelings who are fans of the things that we're reviewing. So we've decided instead
Except
that nothing.
demon players, you don't matter.
Well, because
That's
if
just
you.
true.
But it's also true because there's only, if this data set is to be believed, not that many of them. There were 17 Demons players in all of June, not a large part of the base to get hurt. Whereas if you insult the Tyranids players or the Space Marines players or together, that's 28% of everybody who played. It's also why you can get away with insulting different parts of the Space Marine base, I think, because once you start breaking it apart, then people are like, "Oh yeah, Imperial Fists are terrible," and even the Fist players are like, "Yeah, we're terrible."
And if you do it in text, like 3 or 4 of the sub factions can't read, so you can slag off Space Wolves, Blood Angels, White Scars,
Iron
as much as
Hands.
you want.
Yeah.
I won't
Iron Hands
lie.
players can read; they just choose not to. They're too busy looking at their Volcon and just rubbing it.
They just
polishing it forever because it's all that's keeping them alive. Yeah.
Yes, you will kill 850 points next turn. Yes, you will. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Although my personal favorite is whoever drew the
50% of my
Necron.
CP.
yeah.
My personal favorite though is forever going to be the Necron Overlord icon because it just looks like somebody ran him over with a steamroller and his face is just real flat.
Got hit by a truck.
He did. All the other ones don't look like that. Just the Necron Overlord looks like somebody ran over his face and made it extra flat.
That's what they used to do that's what everyone used to do to that army. So that's
It's not going to change. It's fine. Necrons players, you think you're getting out of this? Look, we all know, deep down in our hearts, Death Guard and Necrons are not real factions. You think you've been buffed. You thought that last time. Remember how it felt last time when you got all that core stuff and it never mattered? Look, I'm not saying it's happening again, but what I am saying is if in 2 months' time you've still got a 45% win rate, I won't be shocked. And it's still on you.
Yeah.
So we can transition now to like talking perhaps more about Nephilim and like the factions that are getting benefits and the factions that are not, the factions that got nerfed, and some dead factions like Harlequins and Tyranids and how they're
Yeah.
totally dead now.
Yeah, Tyranids bottom half
Harlequins have been dead twice and now are probably super dead, I imagine.
They're
You can't play Dark anymore.
quick aside about Harlequins.
Can we talk about the funniest nerf though in the entire balance slate where they didn't nerf light? They were like, those guys in dark, the faction that's not winning events, are gonna lose their fight on death, and we're gonna replace it with mortal wounds on death that you have to roll for.
All right. So let me tell you a little story about me reading this Harlequin data slate real quick. So I open the data slate and I read through the changes to NIDS and some other stuff. I'm like, okay,
Wait, so you're not like me, you didn't just scroll to Hail of Doom. I opened it and Control F Hail
No.
of Doom. That was what I did. I was like, I have to know.
I knew I was going to be disappointed by whatever that said, so I didn't do that. So I scrolled down and I noticed in the Tyranids change that they went after something that wasn't crazy powerful, but was just fun. And I'm like, that doesn't bode well for Quins. And I kept scrolling, and boy, let me tell you about reading the blah, blah, blah. So I read the Dark Nerf and stopped when it said 4 up. And I was like, surely the rest of that is the fight on death anyway. And I kept moving. And then later, I was talking to someone and I was like, yeah, it's really crazy that they moved their fight on death to a 4 up. And they were like, oh, bro, not even a little. Read that again. I was like, what? And I open it and I'm like, oh, God, what? Why?
Not even a good sub faction. Like
That's
they were
not-
just like, man, what if we just nerfed the wrong sub faction and nerfed it like really hard?
You
Too?
just beat the brakes off it, broke both its legs.
Yeah,
And then-
it used to be terrifying charging a Harlequin's character. I'd be like, I'm gonna smite that and use mortal wounds on my Reaper guy just in case. Now I'm like, oh, okay.
Yeah, whatever.
So
I
I
think
take
one mortal wound.
0.3 of a mortal wound on average.
Yeah.
You
The,
can still fight on
straight-
death with stratagem, I believe, though.
Yeah, but they're at SCP. It's
yeah,
Nephilim.
we don't have CP anymore, so it doesn't matter.
Sorry, forgot. And then
The,
the Tyranids nerf is funny though, like to adaptive physiologies.
Let's just take
Another-
adaptive.
Another solution in search of a problem that I don't think I ever heard anybody complain about was the extra minute it took me to pick half of a buff. Some of them were really
gotta be
good.
honest, they were probably in scope too much. I would rather they had all been weaker because just stuff like turning off Overwatch and the ignore charge modifiers one are disproportionately at odds with everything else. In the matchups where they're good, they're way too good, and you can't leave that. And Semantic Ganglia and probably the Obsec one as well, but you'll just always.
Yep.
There's a few of them that are just if all of them were little buffs, like the base Leviathan reroll hit roll, or the +1 charge, or the you can fall back and shoot at -1, like all the little stuff, they'd be fine. But they put in like 4 that are just disproportionately utter garbage or insane. And the fact that those 4 exist means that the entire table is just like you have to burn the root. And I dislike the change from a thematic standpoint because it was really cool, and I would rather they had nerf power level. But you can't leave ignore Overwatch and ignore charge modifiers in there and then be like, yeah, this is a fine thing for you to just be able to swap to in a system where we're getting rid of pregame command point spread.
I mean, am I wrong though that most of the time for events you just pick the ignore charge modifiers one in case you get into a matchup like the Tau one or the Chaos Knights one,
that's an
where those
insanely big
modifiers
number.
lose you the game?
Yeah, exactly.
'Cause-
But the fact that you didn't have to pick meant that
Well,
you
that's
could
fair.
just take the reroll hits, and then if you're putting as Harlequins where rerolls were terrible, you just took +1 charge. And if you were playing into anything else, if you're playing into Chaos Knights, you're like, oh, I'm just not going to worry about Geist Storm. Now you have to make choices pre-game, and that's kind of what they've been trying to force the CP changes, I think. It's a really inelegant way to do it because it was now they're just sub-faction traits that you're locked out of a third of for the fun of it. Which I don't like. I don't think it's very interesting, but I don't think you can print ignore Overwatch and ignore charge modifiers on the same tree as +1 to charge, or the same tree as what's the other one? Extra AP on 6s to wound in ranged attacks, and be like, these are equivalents that you should be able to pick between.
Yeah, but they don't do that with anything. Like anytime there's a custom tree like that, they're never
Yeah,
equal.
but you pick those pre-game. You don't pick those responsively to your opponent every game.
I guess
And
it's
the
fair.
fact that Tyranids did that.
I do think though that it's again
meant
is
that those
another
situ-
like
yeah.
it's a hammer in search of a nail instead of a nail
Yeah,
that was
know.
obvious. And there were
But it's
plenty of
like-
other things that they needed to address that actually like the change to Hive Tyrant needing to be your warlord, and if that warlord dies, taking away your
Or is off
semantic
the board as
imperatives
well. Because if you try
is
to
like
encircle the prey them or anything
yeah,
like that, or deep strike
is
them, you don't care about that.
way more of like an actual nerf to like how your list has to be built and how you
Mhm.
have to play strategically
Right.
than I think the adaptive physiology change
Yeah,
was. And the
I like
adaptive
that change
physiology
too.
change
I
one
think
makes the army, I feel like, actually just less tyranny.
Yeah,
Like,
it's way more boring because you'll just pick the
yeah,
one that is generally all around best. Like I'm just taking +1 to charge because it kind of helps versus Geist Storm, and it kind of helps versus the -2 to charge from Tau,
you don't
but it's
you don't
good
play with a
into
lot of
everything
Raveners,
else.
right?
Yeah, exactly. If you're playing Raveners, you kind of just have to take ignore Geist Storm because
the
otherwise you're going to just.
Yeah.
yeah, you'll lose a bunch of those. The nerf to the Tyranid adaptive and the nerf to Harlequin's luck rolls were both like,
This is
bro,
not the
that
actual problem here.
A, that isn't the problem, and B, holy shit, this is way less fun now. The luck roll
Mhm.
thing is so annoying. I so many times at Charity Hammer rolled 2 dice, not risky, and just didn't have a monofaction mechanic that turn.
Yeah.
That is so tilting. Like,
Just
Yeah.
roll one,
I
bro.
mean,
Just get your
this
one command reroll a turn.
it's not even like I don't because they actually nerfed that mechanic to the point where it's just like, why even bother having a mono mechanic at all? You
well,
might as well just soup stuff in because the mono mechanic is terrible.
well, it's also dumb because it's not like Harlequins have great reroll access, and they were getting these in addition that they were just using on save rolls, and like it was really this like awful thing. It was just like, no, they just don't have rerolls. Like, are you
Yeah.
Harlequins? Don't try twice ever. Like if you compare the amount of rerolls in a game that like a single captain aura gives you to a like the amount that you would get over the game from luck entirely, it would be a joke. But like now Harlequins just kind of vibe with no mono mechanic.
Yeah.
Realistically, they should have just taken save rerolls out of the list of things you could do with it.
Yeah.
They could have done
That would
that.
have been
They could have made it so you can only
fine.
use one on a save reroll. They could have made it. They could have just fucking nerfed light, which was the entire problem anyway. Like
Yeah.
any permutation of that would have been fine, but what they went with, which is only feels bad and barely taps the power level of the faction. I wrote the Harlequin list I played at Charity Hammer, exhausted, stressed, and without any time to do it properly, and made it all the way through the semis without getting close to dropping a game. Like,
And you only ended up dropping it to the faction that's probably best now post Nephilim changes.
by their best player in the
Yeah.
US.
And I want to say like the changes that I thought they're not going to do it because they've changed how they want their stationary stuff versus assault weapon rules to change for weapons. Because
Yeah.
it used to be when factions advanced, their weapons would become assault, and so you'd eat the -1 to hit. Which in Harlequins, if you had to choose in light for all of your weapons to be -1 to hit after advancing, you'd probably do it differently because you don't have a lot of rerolls,
A lot of
and
turns
those
I
rerolls
would.
become a lot less effective. But the
Yeah.
change to luck, like, I guess makes sense given like the pain points that people probably talk about are like, yeah, those Harlequins had 6 CP rerolls, right? Is the
It's
thing
so
people will
annoying.
complain about. But at the same time, there's nothing that like your monofaction mechanic is entirely based on luck at that point,
Which,
which
like,
is a little like it's in theme,
On
but
theme.
also a shitty experience for a player.
it's one of those, like, haha funny until you're playing it, right? And then it's
Right.
not like, yo, this isn't funny. This is just not fun.
Mhm.
I did not enjoy playing against Harlequins where they would just reroll saves on solitaires and characters like that,
Yeah,
and you
Sure.
just
slow it
couldn't
down
play.
though.
Yeah, I didn't
Cut it
enjoy
to
that.
1, remove it wholesale. Do literally like removing their source of
Require them to roll at least 3 dice.
sure, whatever.
Sure.
If I would roll 3 dice every game if I had my pool of 3, I wouldn't care at all. Like, but give me something.
I also just think it's funny because I've always just thought that I would trade that faction mechanic for a great Harlequin upgrade where I could get captain style rerolls on
No, you
stuff.
wouldn't.
I totally would.
Oh yeah, if it would
And
affect
losing the
I mean
save
not
rerolls?
I don't
not in
care at
the
all.
maybe if
Fair
it
enough.
affected more than just core, probably since there's
This
only 2 core units in the book. But
so often you would burn light on offense and then just not have it for defense anyway because you don't have rerolls in the book at all.
My opponent's neurodisruptors are laser targeted. They always hit. It doesn't matter.
No, it's not even that. It's the fusions usually, but like, yeah,
Fusions are there to scare your opponent. They're like the monster under the bed. They're
you
not
only you
actually
only
damage
get 2
output.
shots with them basically per boat at this point too because of all the war gear changes, which let me tell you, I had to dismantle so many players to switch out their armaments because I already had 5 of them with fusion pistols that I was already annoyed with GW.
Imagine actually changing your model's tiny ass equipment, not just being like those two guys have neuros.
I have a bizarre and slightly tangential. How many times have you had to tell your opponent after disembarking players that they couldn't advance and still fire pistols?
Oh, a lot. Very
Like,
frequently.
all the time, right?
Yeah. Harlequin people, like people that rerolled into Harlequins without much experience, cheated a lot. Like a lot, a
Mhm.
lot. There was a lot of falling back and shooting on high level streams at top tables happening with boats without CP
Or
getting
falling
spent.
back with boats and the guys inside still firing.
Yeah.
That happens
No,
a
wait,
bunch.
that
No,
one's
it
fine.
doesn't. You
'Cause
can't use abilities when you're in a transport.
yeah, you can. Otherwise, you can't use luck in a transport.
No, you can't. The luck is used on the dice. It's different from a CP reroll. The transport rule says you can't use data sheet abilities when you're sorry. You can use weapon rolls. You can use like faction rolls. You can't use data sheet rolls, so you don't get
Oh.
res
You don't
when you're in a
so
transport.
you would lose raiment though, and you would lose the fate thing that's Luck of the Laughing God is on the data sheet.
No, it doesn't work like that. It's because that's a thing you get if you have Luck of the Laughing God on your data sheet. It enables it for the army. That's how it works.
We'll talk about this later. We
It's
can have a
fine.
different discussion. So how
Yeah,
about
you
we
can't
talk about
force
the
Also, just
factions
keep
that
out of
got
your
the
book.
most? We can talk about the factions that got the most out of it instead.
our new S2.
I guess before we move on, it does look like the balance approach for this a little bit looks like GW was looking for nails to hammer down and not really taking a substantively nuanced approach to their balance attempt at this edition.
No, they
But
definitely just swung the bat and it hit what it hit. And that kind of
yeah,
was it.
they just kind of threw darts at a board and kind of hoped that the things would nerf factions, and it definitely did. Tyranids did get nerfed in this by the rules changes that happened to them. Are they still going to be an A tier army? Probably. I don't think that they nerfed them enough that their data sheets have somehow gone from being amazing to being bad. And Harlequins will probably still be good, although a lot harder to play with Fire and Fade being a once per game stratagem now.
The way they play now isn't it's less like skill checking. You kind of just roll up and hope shit happens,
Got
That
a
sounds like
dang.
meds.
which feels bad to say. And like, sorry other people that play Harlequins, but like that's your army now. Like, and I did it successfully all weekend, but that just like welcome to the parade. This is what
You
you do. You roll up with your boats and you set up a move block while you move, but that's about all your skill expression is because you have to shoot. Because if you don't, you'll die. And you have no way of modifying how likely that is or isn't to happen. Good luck.
and your combat's not going to rescue you anymore outside of a couple combat characters, and that's it.
Just play
Well, you have
Twilight. You
to-
get loads of extra combat.
Man, yeah,
Loads of
so much mortal wounds on a 4-up.
lots of that's dark.
That's
Lots
dark.
of
No,
Nathan.
sorry.
strength 4, neg 2, 2 damage, no rerolls.
Oh, it was really depressing round 5 at Newcastle when my opponent charged 10, like buffed up, popped all the stratagem crisis guys, used the plus of damage strat into my Tyrant Guard and killed 1.5 through Film of Pain. And I'm like, yeah, it's about average.
Iron Guard real good. There's still just plenty good data sheets in that Tyranid book.
Iron Guard real good. Troop melee real bad. When I bought into Harlequins, I thought I was buying like another Drukari finesse melee army.
They hit like witches, but without stratagems.
Yeah,
No, they
there's no
don't.
there's no combat support
They don't
stratagems
even
for that army.
They don't even almost hit like witches. Witches hit on 2s.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they get less. They're lower strength, less attacks.
They're not lower strength. They're they're the same
Are
strength.
they strength 4?
Witches are strength 4 when you take the right drug,
Oh, okay.
and then
Okay.
they have the same amount of attacks.
AP is the major difference, I suppose, unless you
Nope.
take swords, because the
AP's
Harlequin
AP's
weapons.
the same.
Yeah, but the Harlequin weapons are the only way you get strength 4, isn't it, on troops? Because the
Oh yeah,
swords
actually,
aren't
even
plus
then they're strength 3.
Yeah, because
So
the
unless you
normal
pay
troops are
20
just strength
points
3.
per troop, they're strength
Yeah.
3.
Witches don't do mortals?
Oh,
Look.
I mean they
look,
do if
look,
you
it's
take
okay.
if you take the one place where you roll 6s on invulnerable saves and reflect them back at your opponent.
Right.
Yeah, if you-
I'm still slightly tilted from the first time, for the first game I put against Drukari, which was against that, where I just lost the Swarmlord to a squad of Hellions without
Good.
doing. I was just like, oh, I'm just
Mhm.
dead here. Right. That was fun.
Yeah, eviscerating flyby is a real hell of a drug.
No. It was the
Oh, he got
6s
beat to
bounce,
death in
6s bounce
melee.
damage. That was it.
Yeah.
It was just the 6 bounce damage. He bounced like 4 mortal wounds to me, and I was like, That was a fun.
Ouch. Ouch. I'm
Yep.
sorry. That does sound
sad.
uncomfortable. All right.
That was cool.
How about people who got cool things out of it instead? Talk about cool stuff.
I
from
can't think of any
Nephilim.
factions that had any benefit from Nephilim.
Sisters got points cuts.
Who?
Yeah.
I've never heard of them. It's not a real faction. You
Okay.
bring real factions.
Secondary changes were pretty kind to them as well.
I'll let you.
I mean, I don't really have much to say. I don't really know much about. I don't really know much about sisters because every time I
Okay.
play them, I don't learn much. I just hit them until they stop moving. That faction makes me upset every time I play it.
I watched the Sisters player go second, walk 3 characters onto objectives and recover the relics, and start turn 2 by scoring 11 secondary. So
That sounds about
on
right.
that one secondary,
John did that to me, actually.
it's terrifying, isn't it?
Yeah, he
It's like,
scored.
what
he
the
finished it-
hell?
Yeah, he finished his turn, or like at the top of his turn, or whatever. And he like going into turn 2, he essentially had it was 10, 5, 3. He had 18 points on secondary. It was like, what's happening?
Yeah, I've definitely scored that before, but it's when you get like the 3 knights turn 1 kill, and you're like, yeah, okay, I expected that. When you're doing it by like walking onto objectives, it's horrifying.
I had an opponent get unlucky with like a Celestine revive, so I got 13 points of assassinate on the first turn at the open.
Samesies.
I'm so
It's a lot
glad
of
they,
it's
you
a
know, they
lot of
changed
assassinate
assassinate,
points.
right?
I know.
Now you don't get
And I'm glad
13 points from just
WTC just-
Celestine.
10.
It was 9 from
I'm
Celestine.
glad WTC ruled it sanely.
Ooh,
Look, man. Don't
The
make all
Almost like
WTC
they knew.
the WTC is terrible and gets my wrath this week.
It's actually, I'm pretty sure it's not the WTC's fault that the captains voted no on
Yeah.
CSM.
Yeah, captains. That's it.
I
You
voted
should
yes. I was
yell
promised
at all
drinks.
yell at all the captains.
Yeah, Ennis gets a pass, but the rest of you, I hate you all.
I had somebody message me was like, I'll buy your entire team drinks if you vote yes on the CSM vote for WTC, and I was like, yeah, okay.
Who was that guy? I'm gonna buy that guy drinks. That guy's awesome.
Whose captain voted no, Anthony? What captains are you going to call out?
I mean,
on Fight
I
Club?
could name and shame. I'm not going to, but I'll name and
Yeah.
shame a little bit.
Yeah,
There's
those
some fun
rat-
countries. Who do you want to
rat
know what they voted for?
There's still a bonus point for killing the warlord from assassinate. Yes,
Yeah, but
but that
Celestine's
does
not
require
even-
Celestine the warlord. Usually it's Vol. Vol is the warlord, and I think is required to be.
Scotland voted yes because we're not insane. Canada voted yes.
You don't like those guys.
USA voted no.
Sure did.
We're not going to call out people, are we? No.
No,
We're
of
just
course
gonna-
not.
Of course not.
Australia voted no.
What the fuck?
What? Rescind everything nice that I've ever
Adam!
said.
Adam, are you still
It's-
here?
Is it Norway with a no?
Well, Norway are in our group, so I'm not allowed to look at what they know. But I also don't know what their captain's name is on Discord. Latvia voted yes.
Ah,
Heroes.
So that's why
okay.
that's why we're all rooting for Team Latvia.
I'm gonna throw when I play against them now. I hope we get
You're
put
not
in
gonna need
attack
to.
us.
You're not gonna need to throw. They're gonna beat you to death.
I'm
with
gonna do
their
it on purpose.
massive balls.
Latvia's gonna take a 20-0 against us against when I'm the attacker.
Jonathan Slade Johnson says, "I'll take the hate."
Yeah, but you're from Sweden. Nobody cares.
You're part of the problem, John.
Wow.
Norway's
Anybody else that
captain
we
is
should yell at?
Patrick. I don't see Patrick's vote.
Because Morris only wants to run 60%. So Australia voted no, so that he can still do it.
I'm just gonna pretend that's a thing that I didn't read, and that there's no way Alex can know that.
I love that. I love that rationale for voting no. I don't want to learn a new
So,
book. I'm
For
gonna keep
context on
playing
everybody,
things that
WTC has a rules cutoff of the 8th of July, but the requirement is that the book has been FAQ'd by that point, which technically means Warzone
Imperial
Octarius 2
Knights.
Critical Mass is still illegal.
Yep.
Because that hasn't received anything despite coming out in November last year, which is the book that has the Bloody Rose supplement and the Orc Speedway in it.
Oh, so those are
That's
illegal. Then,
currently
right?
illegal, yes, technically.
Huh.
I don't
Okay.
think we're playing it that way, but I did
Why
ask the
not?
question.
That's the rules.
no exceptions. You can't make
As is
exceptions.
Warzone Nachmund Red 4, which has the Rack Army of Renown.
Yeah, that stuff's
Those are
illegal.
both technically illegal as well. I asked. But the vote ended up being a 16-11 against, in not favor of not playing the Kit Space Codex unless it gets an FAQ by next Friday.
Oh, the day before it comes out.
No, it comes out on Friday.
Oh, okay.
Or it comes out on
It comes out,
Saturday,
yeah.
and then
It
a
comes
week
out
on
on
Friday is the deadline, and then a week after that is listed.
So what they're saying is you need to put together a concerted campaign, Anthony, to email the GW FAQ team with like thousands of emails telling them to just release an immediate FAQ for Chaos Space.
Just for Abaddon's datasheet, so he can run it with his Chaos
Yeah.
Knights.
Yeah,
one.
whatever. I'm just gonna wait until like the day before WTC and then just not go. That'll show them.
Yeah, that'll show everybody. Yeah. But then how will you watch all of my my singles games while not being able to play?
Oh no, I'm just gonna go and do that. I'm not gonna play.
Oh, right.
You're gonna go and just show up for singles play and then just not go to the
I'm
team
only
part
gonna
of
play
it.
the singles. It's gonna be the opposite of what America's supposed to do.
And then you're gonna fly to the UK and play in the Leeds Super Major.
That's right. I'm
It's
gonna
the
play.
same weekend.
I'm gonna play CSM for both. Fuck them.
They're illegal in the WTC in this singles.
Damn it!
You can play Matt Morris only 60%.
Yeah, I'll borrow Soli's Possessed. That's what we'll do.
Oh, poor Anthony. There's gonna be no violence.
Poor Anthony. Anthony deserves it. And
Poor
this is what
Anthony.
Anthony gets for army hopping 7 times and developing no loyalty.
I've never done that.
This is funny because Innes used to be the person who would poo-poo on a faction loyalty all the time earlier in this podcast.
Well,
that
it's not
faction
real, it's
loyalty
just
I mean,
is
I
a
still
myth.
do. I'm not actually like playing Tyranids out of loyalty. I'm playing Tyranids because I think it's the best chance I have to win everything, and because I'm playing them for WTC.
Yep. Because
I
he
would
thinks they're the best. That's why
very
he's playing them for
very
WC.
gladly go and play Chaos Space Marines if I thought they were out and I had a better chance with them. And I still might steal sisters.
So rude. So rude. And it's out here
Look, man,
taking the
look,
2019
man.
maiden route.
Just read the Reaper of Obliterax FAQ for WTC and then tell me you still want to play that. It hurts a little bit when they get to
Wait,
take
what's
Film
the
no Pains
FAQ
against it.
for Reaper of
You can take Film no
Obliterax?
Pains against the Mortal Wounds.
Yeah.
It hurts me. It hurts me so much.
I guess. Whatever. Being wrong is okay, WTC.
So technically they're not wrong. It's just really complicated. The rules
It's
for
really
it
complicated.
is genuinely bizarre.
Yep.
Did they like cite 5 different rulebook like
Little
FAQ and
bit.
erratas in order
Well,
to do it? That's too many erratas.
One, the rules for multiple attacks that inflict mortal wounds say they apply at the end, which is after the attack has been allocated, and Reaper of Obliterax only ignores mortal wounds when the attack is allocated. So the mortal wounds don't apply at the same time. They also only apply to the model that the attack was allocated to, which means that the mortal wound would only apply to ignore Feel No Pains if it was against the same model that the attack that generated its hit was the save was taken on that model. So if you did 4 attacks with the Reaper of Obliterax that wound, and it kills a model, kills a model, kills a model, kills a model, the 5th model that would take mortal wounds did not have an attack allocated to it and is technically not being ignored attacks for by the Reaper of Obliterax because it wasn't allocated an attack. So there is definitely reason to it. The problem I have with it is that they also just had it not apply to single models, which I think is
that's silly.
That's the bit I don't like. Like I'd get behind the other bit where it's really complicated for the attack allocation on multi-wound models, but I don't like it applying on single models.
So what I'm gonna say is that if your errata requires you to point at like 3 different minute situations,
Then
is that
GW should write the rules better.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that you're probably looking for a solution like in the weeds at that point.
That's fair. It's also just a very badly worded relic. Like I don't think
it is. It should have just been you cannot take any damage reduction against anything that this weapon does.
You can take damage reduction against it.
They should just not
things that ignore damage.
Should not do that. Like let's be honest.
You could just not do that.
But anyway, yeah. So I get where the WT's ruling is coming from. It just makes me sad every time my opponent takes Feel No Pains against it.
You should remove your ability to ignore damage while you're in engagement range of that model. That seems fine.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, that could possibly be an issue.
Yeah, that seems fine.
Change it to actually the best relic in the game.
Just Death Leaper with damage reduction.
Probably.
That's what they should change the Broodlord Synaptic Link to instead of.
I mean, they increased Death Leaper by 25 points, and I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah, especially like I would still be running the Parasite if it wasn't for the fucking CP cost of running Gestation.
I mean, 2 CP. Yeah, it's like the reason I'll run freaking Death Leaper still is because it only costs 1 CP to jack up his efficiency a bunch. The 120 points is like a little bit much.
It's fine.
That's 4 warriors, bro.
Yeah, it's true.
But you can only run 6 troop slots of warriors.
All 6 are warriors. Trust me.
I mean, I'm just running Innes's list again because
you
I don't
remember.
want to think.
So in the warrior mirror match, Death Leaper is really good though.
That's true.
It's really funny when you charge and you're like, yeah, you don't get to use +1 attack or -1 damage here.
Oh.
Just
This is
take your stuff off.
This is where I ask Innes a question.
Mhm.
So, would you rather take 9 more warriors than taking 2 harpies essentially at that point? Would you rather just double up on 9
Well,
more
9
warrior
warriors
dudes?
is 320 to 330 points, depending on loadout,
Yeah.
or like 315.
Well, I mean, you'd have to mess around with the points a little bit at that point to
2
get
harpies
2
is
harpies
450.
in. Yeah. Are you on just taking out 2 harpies? Is
I'm
that where you're at?
trying. So for this weekend, I'm at an event playing on WC boards. So I'm not running harpies because they're quite hard to hide when you don't get board choice. And I want to play a
Mhm.
list that doesn't point flip like that. So I'm playing 18 warriors and a parapod with like
Mhm.
the standard accoutrement of the mandatory units like Tyrant Guard, Zone Topes,
Yeah.
Tropes, single Bivore, so I don't all lose knights. Um,
Yeah, because you don't really have the CP anymore to strategic reserves that harpy.
Yeah, you can't strategic reserve harpies safely, especially when you're starting at 1 CP, and you can't strategic reserve a points upgrade harpy with that because they go to
Yep.
10 and 11 for Dharmic and Snaptic, so they don't try to reserve for 1 CP anymore.
Yeah, they cost 2.
They cost 2 minimum, which is nice because you can put 8 Pyrovores in with any harpy, and they all start, or 4 Pyrovores, 8 power level, they start reserve for 2 CP with 1 harpy, which is what is pretty good. But when you don't have 2 CP, it's not an option. So
Yeah. Agreed.
You mission pack those.
I just like the way that Innes's lists play. That's all, guys. That's just what I
they
do.
definitely should have changed strategic reserves down to the first 9 power level being free.
Probably.
I think that
I
would
mean,
be
they didn't change any of the CP costs of anything for the entire game,
I'm happy
including
that they left it,
detachments.
so hopefully people will be like, wow, this is shit, and we can get it changed sooner.
That's true. I also think that the idea of them holistically changing everything to actually fit with their CP changes was too high of an expectation for GW at this point.
They could have just printed Exalted Demon points.
Yeah, they should have. I mean, they took demons out back and beat them quite a bit
They
because,
didn't have to.
like,
They were already dead out the back. They just
Yeah,
didn't.
they weren't
just didn't
doing
give them
anything in
CPR.
particular. Yeah, they weren't doing anything in particular. They just punished them for requiring CP because they're an 8th edition book without Psychic Awakening rule.
I bet they were really scared of the new relic stratagem and how you can use it in soup. They were like, can't let demons have that.
Oh
the
yeah,
Demon's
that would
Relic,
be
dude.
terrible
No,
to
we
have.
couldn't let you have a demons because you could have a Lord of Change and still buy a Death Guard relic and have fetid stench fats in your demon army.
So you can do what?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Die slower.
You could die at 18
How many
inches
plague rings
anyways.
how many pink horrors do you reckon you could fit around stench fats?
It doesn't matter.
That army's not good. It's still
Look,
not
I
good.
don't care.
If
It's
the
really
pinks,
fun. I
the
love
pinks-
30 pink horror blobs are like my snowflake thing. I love 30 pink horror blobs. I just be like, yeah, this is just here now.
Yeah.
It's not going away. And then it
I mean, I
goes
did
away
love
because it gets 9th
pink
edition.
horror blobs because they are kind of funny.
How dead is the harpy now? I feel like you're like the 8th person to ask me this. They're fine. They're still one of the best data sheets in the game. Just
Harpies
embrace
aren't dead.
the coin flip.
No,
Although
never mind. Harpies
consider
are
running
dead.
them with Stranglethorn cannons. They are 30 points cheaper, and that is kind of good. You get like 2d3 plus 6 at 822.
Yeah.
Which
And they're
is still pretty
they're
good.
just venom.
You do
They're
nothing to
basically
armor.
just venom cannons with a pip less AP.
Hit less AP and 2 less damage, but you get D3.
Well, I meant like infantry venom cannons, not their
Yeah.
heavy variety. They're just 1 pip less damage or 1 pip less AP because they're still strength 8-2 damage.
Are they only AP? Are infantry venom cannons AP3?
Yeah, regular venom cannons are AP3.
Jesus, I thought they were 2. Wow, that's really sad.
They're 3.
I'm glad I've not used them yet.
Yeah, they're really good at 3 and a lot less interesting at 2.
Yeah.
I mean, they're 5 points.
Armor
right?
of Contempt
take
is
them
not
anyway.
Yeah.
It is interesting though because the 2d3 plus 3 plus 6 total for 2 Stranglethorn cannons is kind of interesting on harpies.
Yeah, they're only 170 or 175, which is not too bad. So you're paying what 200 and 185. So if you just cold swap from old harpies to new harpies with Stranglethorns, you're 10 points on your nerf, and you get a side grade gun. It's a downgrade gun, but you can definitely make it up in other places.
You need AP on them. You need to find a way to put AP on those boys. AP2 is not cutting it in this new armor
You can, like,
we live in.
If I was playing Kronos, I'd probably run Stranglethorns.
Right.
Yeah, because
but
it'd be
everybody
AP3
else-
99% of the time.
Yeah.
And Kronos is pretty decent. I quite like Kronos in the moment.
Spent the weekend playing against when I wasn't playing Armor of Contempt. AP2 is not real. You need
Somebody needs to tell Turtle Warrior Bone Swords.
in shooting.
Right. Okay.
Because
Yeah,
of cover.
because cover. Yeah.
Yeah,
Hey, you can get heavy cover from the Broodlord.
that's pretty sweet.
Is that from the Imperative?
Yeah,
Yes,
It
if you're
gives
already
you
in
all
like
the covers.
if you're already in like cover and your inventory, you get heavy
Heavy
cover.
cover. Oh, fun. That
So
sounds
you can
great.
get those warriors a 3-up
I mean, I'm sure
save.
somebody else is going to pop into chat and tell me zoanthropes aren't real next.
Zoanthropes aren't real. Have you not been reading Biffpod?
High level Tyranid thoughts.
High level Tyranid
Everybody-
analysis. 4 mortal wounds is not good enough.
No. Nor is the 5-up invulnerable save on all of your infantry who don't have it.
No, living is overrated. You should just hide.
Or the 4-up invuln on all your monsters.
Yeah. You know how
Yeah.
you can like hide from scatterbikes? You know, hiding from the 22 inch move 18 inch range guns. Yeah,
I mean,
hide.
I mean, if I was worried about people taking scatterbikes, sure.
You should be. Okay, should we talk about Hail of Doom?
Yeah, we can talk about Hail of Doom. So Hail
Yeah.
of Doom got nerfed a little
It's
It's
bit.
dead, right? It's dead,
It's-
gone.
Yeah, it's another dead build like Harlequins and Tyranids. Also
I
dead.
will say, having played against it now with some armor contempt shit while I was touching cover, doesn't do that much damage no more.
It's still AP4.
It's not though. Like some of it is, but most of it isn't.
I don't know, man. Have you played against Manic? It's all AP4.
It isn't though. Like only one thing has that. Only the
Hail of
Dire
Doom is-
Avenger gun goes to 4. Everything else goes to
Okay,
3.
it goes to 3. Yeah, I know. But I mean, they're running 39 Avengers, so
Sure, but there's other stuff in the list.
none of that matters.
It sure does.
I don't know.
It's
I
not
still feel
worth.
like Kronos' bow is too much. That thing needed to change. That's the one thing I'm really upset about. Not getting changed was Kronos' bow.
That thing
That's-
hurts.
It's
I mean,
breaking
at
through
least-
on a stick.
Yeah.
At least they can't have everybody ignoring cover now because
a big
changed Hail
deal.
to all consuming, which is a big deal.
You
Yeah.
can still
Ignoring
run
cover-
reveal on a warlock if you really want it.
Sure,
That's-
but then it's just one targeted unit and you got to
That's
pass the
committed.
test. You got to
Yeah.
commit to it a little
It's
bit
not
more.
bad. You're generally running a warlock anyway.
Sure. I'm just saying instead of it being a passive effect, you do have a gate that you have to bypass.
There was
Yeah.
also like Fire and Fade died. Battle Focus thingy is a lot less good. Like a lot of that stuff
Yeah.
is a lot less strong.
Yeah, it's reroll now, so it's now 75% chance to
Also-
maybe get back behind a wall.
Yeah.
Anthony, how did Blood
assuming you're
Angels
not on
do
28 mil base.
into how did Blood Angels do in the open and then at Charity Hammer?
Oh boy.
How do
you
you feel
tell
about
some-
Ulfway?
Dude,
How
I'm
did
still-
how did how did Oofway do against Blood Angels?
Dude, I'm still picking hawk feathers out of my death company. Like, I can't. There's so much blood and feather everywhere. It takes forever to clean up.
How fast did those games end? Just wondering.
I finished my last round game on bottom of 1 my opponent conceded. And I won 98 to 12.
Wow.
No,
That seems
Well-
good.
yeah. It was 29 because like at the end I was like, leave the stuff in my backfield. I'm not going to get behind enemy lines. I don't care. And then the one I played against Colin was streamed. I think we played through 5, but functionally over on 2.
Then
Yeah,
you
Blood
played
Can you
Angels-
against
explain why? How? What happened?
Did you also play against Hail with Blood Angels though over the weekend at Charity Hammer? Or was that just with Noise Chaos Space Marines?
That was with the 3rd Legion.
How did that go into Hail? I'm just curious.
That was also a round 2 concede. They don't like trans hitman, no rerolls, armor of contempt, and cover terminators either.
No one
Um,
does, to be fair.
No one does. Yeah, it's a bad.
No one does.
It's a bad time. But what Jamie said, fire and fade away now. Can't go anywhere when I'm in your zone. It was rough. Going first both times obviously helps a bunch because I get to put all my big armor save idiots in the middle. And then the following turn, I put my big armor save idiots in their deployment zone. So
Good
that
place
part
to
was,
be, yeah.
yeah, it's pretty good. It also really helps like that at least once in those matchups, someone would disrespect the Angelus bolt guns and can get slayed by them. That was pretty funny. I had a unit peek out to like charge the Sanguinary Guard, and then other units shot a different unit of Sanguinary Guard. So the Sanguinary Guard near the banner shot on death and lit up the Banshees and took a bunch of them with them. So
Oops-a-doodles.
Yeah, that that banner is a whole bunch of fun on its fourth line of its datasheet ability that almost never gets used. Yeah, it's really powerful. Standing in cover with Sanguinary Guard makes Eldar mega sad. They just you just gate check them, and they can't do anything. The Centurions did great. They did their best thing they ever do, which is they sat home on their shelf because they're fucking garbage and Blood Angels.
I like it.
You sound bitter.
I don't like that unit. It's really bad. It makes me frustrated that people keep asking me about them.
Well, maybe it's not all about you, Anthony.
What?
Maybe it's not all about you.
It is.
Oh, it is.
Every
about
time
me.
they ask me,
Remember, you couldn't find a coach for your playstyle? You're not
Yeah.
always the right person for everybody else's.
dude, Box is right there. He'll tell you how to pyramid scheme. I mean, use Centurions with the best of them.
Jesus, man.
Oh my god.
The Art of War guy said pyramid scheme.
Yeah, that's right. It's all
we
the way
wanna-
down, baby.
Do we want to take a short break, get tea and stuff, and then come back and do our lightning
No, I
round
want to
stuff?
keep slagging people off.
Oh, we can
why-
do that too.
Why is
I mean,
why is it a Chinese proverb and a Japanese samurai, Anthony?
I don't know, man.
Why
Probably
Nick
because-
is Indian?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. He didn't do his research. We don't have a history person on the team. I don't know what to tell you, bro.
wait. Can you tell? I need this explained to me. Can you tell me what the problem is? Because I know what Art of War is. Because I'm familiar with the translation of a work by Sun Tzu, who is a philosopher who probably existed but may not have.
Who had such great advices? If you're losing, try running. And
To be
That's-
fair,
that's
it
what
was
he said.
quite
if in doubt, use fire.
it
Yeah.
was quite wise at the time when nobody had access to like the Earth's entire knowledge at their fingertips.
And some of y'all have it now and don't use it. So, like, what's your excuse?
Most people don't.
So anyway,
I-
the problem is it's a Japanese samurai. The work is Chinese.
Oh, I understand it's the icon that we're having a problem with now. I
logo, yeah.
understand now. Yeah.
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 Now I get you. Well,
Now I realize they
fair-
couldn't call it Kama Sutra 40k, but
Yeah. Well, yeah, sure would have. Do you want to just take down Dice Down while we're at it? Maybe take a swipe at Frontiers?
we can take a swipe
no,
at
that's okay.
Frontiers.
Dice
We
Down did a
got-
good job of taking themselves down.
Oh, okay.
Although
Boom.
I will say that one of my favorite things is that today Alex House from Frontiers sent me pictures of all the MDF terrain that he's been making, and it actually looks quite nice. I wish I could show you all pictures of it, but he's made red, blue, and yellow crates, and they look quite nice for WTC style boards. Have spies, Sun
Have
Tzu dope.
stuff. Hell yeah. Dude's got shooters. Okay, let's do the wrap up and we'll call it there on the main episode. I hope everybody has enjoyed this slightly less formal version. You can find the entire catalog at youtube.com/tabletop. You can also find us at patreon.com/bestintabletop, where you can find many ways to support the network. If you would like to submit questions, stick around in the chat. If you'd like to catch us live, we're here on YouTube. Thank you, everybody. We hope you all enjoyed the show. This has been episode 19. And goodbye, Nachmund. And yeah, we'll be back for the bonus round, so stick around. We'll be 5-10 minutes. If you're in the chat anyway, stick around for the chat. We'll probably be talking to you anyway. Otherwise, we'll be taking some questions afterwards. If you'd like to hear those, check us out on the YouTube VODs. You can come subscribe to see them, but you'll be able to see all of the bonus round content from this and back the ways.
I need to do a quick shout out as well. So, the next weekend, I'm going to something called Joelhammer. You can check us out at twitch.tv/Team Battle Brothers. It's a charity event. I'm going to post a link to the stuff in the Best in Tabletop network, and I'll probably post it in 40K if Siegs doesn't try and strangle me. Check us out. It is another charity event that I'm doing. It's run by Josh Schutz, who is all over Charity Hammer. He's the best, and I want to support him when and where possible. The proceeds go to a children's school, I want to say, for kids, like for sick kids, I think it is as well. So yeah, check it out. I'll be posting links in places. Just, give it a look, watch the Twitch, donate if you can. If I'm not mistaken, I think the donations make us do wacky challenges, which can get very out of hand very quick. So keep an eye on that if you want to see us do ridiculous nonsense. Yeah, I'll be posting links to places. But that's it.
Please donate to Joel Hammer and watch it. I'm sure it'll be up on Twitch.
You can also see all of the Charity Hammer VODs and stuff like that. If you miss any of the live content, that'll be on the YouTube feed as well.